Good afternoon on what is a bright, warm and blustery day. It is Friday the 10th of June and I'm in the reading nook with a nice hot cup of tea and a box to open. So let's find out what's in this. Okay, and see anything, let's slide it out. Still in its packaging, so quite sturdy. And it is a copy of Fearful Symetries. This is a supplement for Trailer Cthulhu, published by Pelgrane Press. It is The Secret War is coming to England, and you're the warriors. Albion, the primeval, and perfect England of William Blake is broken by war in heaven and turmoil amongst mankind. Heroes must arise to build Jerusalem anew in the green and pleasant land, guided by Blake's visionary poetry. In this 1930s England setting for Trailer Cthulhu, you play a group of magicians who have been initiated into one of the four magical styles: alchemy, magic, spiritualism, and witchcraft, and you must learn how to wield this terrible double-edged power that grants both dominion and degeneration as you channel the godlike Zoas from Blake's personal version of Christian mysticism. New Keeper tools, the folklore machine and the history machine allow keepers to run a fully improvised campaign integrating themes from William Blake and H.P. Lovecraft. Fearful Symetries reveals the secret history of England between the world wars, its magical awakening, and the people who fought in the shadows for the newly discovered power. It is a story of how Albion was split asunder and how clues in the poetry of William Blake lead groups of magicians to attempt to reunite it. And it is a story of the singular sequence, a singular squamous truth buried in the hideous mythos. So it's a little bit tight and small for me to read. So that's there on the back. Now, the thing is, Pelgrane Press is an English publisher, and it visits the United Kingdom quite a lot in its exploration of the mythos through Trailer Cthulhu. Notably, it did it with Bookhounds of London, which is a fantastically squalid campaign of book dealers and auctioneers and experts, genteelly ransacking the libraries of the nobility who have been forced to sell on in order to pay exorbitant estate and death taxes after the Great War, this revisits a very and also the other one that was Apocalyptic Cthulhu, which is very sort of Wyndham-esque versions of mythos apocalypses, which levied upon the United Kingdom. But this visits the United Kingdom in a very different style, one that kind of evokes back, I would suggest, its nearest antecedent would be the Golden Dawn supplement published by Pagan Publishing in the 90s, which is very much out of print and difficult to obtain. So, we open up, go, and nicely what we've got here is, if you have a look, unless my playtesters, and it's listed by their mystical order. So we have the Thelemic Order of Silver Twilight, the Esoteric Order of Albion, Order of the Crimson Dragon, Council of the Lion Rampant, Cubitoris Mysterii, or Seekers of Mystery, the Aegis of Oxford, Group 4, Group 5. Group 4, Group 5, I'm a bit disappointed in you. But we've got quite a lot of content in here, as you can see, quite a lengthy contents page before we get into what's in the book and how William Blake figures in this campaign. And I mean, I was pretty lucky to be able to go to the William Blake exhibition, I think at the Tate, just before lockdown. That would have been a couple of years ago or so. And literally, it was one of the last things we did. Last trips we made out. We made out before everything locked down. Because we also went to see the Troy exhibition on the same day. So we did two museums, because one of the great things is, one of the nice things is that my daughter works at a London museum, and she got us tickets, and it was lovely to see her, and the exhibitions were great. So, first chapter we have is on William Blake. And we are talking about basically his work, and his thoughts and entities. And so this is going to be a very different interpretation of the mythos, through a different lens, through a much earlier lens, and his themes will be different to those of Lovecraft, and actually probably more accessible, and more positive in a way. But it basically, it does kind of, we have discussion of Blake and Lovecraft, talk about Blake and despair, and we have classically beautiful replication of Blake's works. And this isn't the first time that Trail of Cthulhu has done an artistic based campaign, because it did Dreamhounds of Paris, which is a campaign built around the activities of the Surrealists and their effects upon the Dreamlands, and then essentially the changes that they wrought to the Dreamlands in and around Paris, almost upon Paris itself. But we have a presentation of Blake's artwork, and including, of course, the Great Red Dragon itself, which people will perhaps recognise from the novel in which Hannibal Lecter first appeared. But anyway, here we get into the first how to set up the campaign, and how it's run, all obscured by a cat's tail. There we go. But he's just been fed, so he's come back happy and wants a fuss. Don't you? Sorry, cat interruption. He has no interest in what I'm doing except I want a fuss. Anyway, back to the book. Yes, I know some of you do enjoy the interruptions by the cat. I enjoy them too, but sometimes, he does get in the way. And then we've got a discussion on creating magical groups, because obviously you are members of an esoteric order. There's off again. And how to create characters, and then running the game, and handling the two elements. You've got the folklore engine, and essentially how to set that up and running. And this is also using an expansion book called the Book of New Jerusalem, and I'll do an unboxing of that as well, because Pelgrim Press were very kind to give me a copy to review as well. I'm looking forward to digging into both. And then we have the other machine, which is the history machine, and this is using the real world and combining the elements essentially of the folklore and the historical, because there's such a because the 30s is such an interesting period as it builds up to the outbreak of World War II. There's so much going on elsewhere that is affecting the country, and it's a time of Great Depression, rise of fascism, but more going on as well. And then we get threats and allies, including dealing with death. And we've got NPC characters, and then we've got guidance for, so it's essentially improvising, running a good game for everyone, lines and vowels, the X card and so on, keeping it fresh. So I suspect this would have a fantastic campaign to play through. So you've got all the advice here, and then sort of like backfilling clues. So you can sort of like, backfilling clues are sort of going, oh yes, that's a clue to that sort of thing, when you didn't realise it when you actually set it all up. So then we have the arts of magic, player characters all being practitioners. So we've got sources of magic and spells. How they're cast, whether it's incantations, rituals, and so on, and casting spells, creating new spells, mystical visions, spellcasting options, so on. So there's options that you can create quite an interesting range of different characters, because alchemy, magic, spiritualism, witchcraft. There is a certain, seediness, swordsness, slightly swordsness to this. It is because you are dealing with people who are. These are side things. These are things that are not spoken about. You might be a simple witch who has been taught magic that's been handed down in your family, or you could be an academic who has been studying the medieval metaphysical works and taken that into the practical realms. So lots of guidance on different magic in here and running the game. All illustrated by the appropriate artwork, symbology, paintings of William Blake throughout. So we have talking about the different types of magic, and then we have other magic as well. We do have talking about sigil magic, electric magic, Goetia, and then further afield for different settings and so on, and even getting on to magical languages. So if you're adding in Enochi there, the magic essentially the language of angels, potential crossover there, sort of like descendants of the agents of D sort of thing, if you wanted to. So, and then we get into Fearful Symetries, which is a sample itself. Complete with hooks and ideas and scenarios. So glad to be able to look at this in detail, and so you've got quite a lot of sort of background information and setup to get you going. So and essentially again quite London in focus, but you are going to be travelling in and around. Before essentially that's quite short. Fearful Symetries campaign itself is relatively short. It's really sort of like more of a campaign outline. So just that before we get on to the discussion of 30s England and geography, society, etiquette, and so on, and English class system. And a lot of this is going to be mostly, somebody, if you've got an advantage if you're English, but it's all useful information. Covering sort of geography, politics, crime, religion, and more, work and play. And the other great thing about this is that what you can do is you can go back, you can delve back into Pelgrane Press's back catalogue of Trailer Cathedral content, and pick and choose the scenarios that the publisher has brought out, especially those ones set in the UK, and bring this into it, sort of like intersperse those as well. you know, give them sort of like connect them into sort of like the fearful symmetries and Blake's influence, to really sort of like leaven out your campaign, fill it out with detail, especially if your players have not role-played those scenarios. And even then, potentially you could even have a Bookhounds of London Fearful Symmetries kind of crossover, going into their world of sort of like for book hunting and that sort of thing. We've got a discussion of 1930s occult societies, so whether that's the Liberal Catholic Church or the Fraternity of Inner Light, so various different groups. And of course, this would have been all very much on the hush hush, very quietly done, you know, because it's in general the practice. These practices would have been looked down upon, frowned upon, because even then, you know, yes, you could have your village could have a witch, but she would have been looked down upon, and she might even have been prosecuted. Well, the last prosecution of a witch would have been in the 1940s during World War II, and she was kind of a celebrity figure. But, so yeah, so then we have British antiquities. So as I said, very British focused, whether that is dealing with black dogs, dragons, glamours, ghosts, giants, Grindelows, and so on and more. They're all here. The Green Man, you know, and there are notes here, sort of like, okay, here's his stats, here's some background, here's what happens if you investigate him. Just some guidance, and so on. And then section of occult books. You also need occult books for this kind of campaign, and yes, I would actually recommend looking at Bookhounds of London as well for expanded information on that kind of books. Before we get into Albion's Lovely Land and the key locations, so Oxford. So think of this potentially as the Oxford basically source book as well, and then beyond to other locations, so south of the Channel, so Uffington, Whitehorse, Wade and Smithies, Dragon Hill, in lots of different locations where you have resonances with Albion running through. We go out to the Cotswolds. So this is a lovely, sturdy book, beautifully illustrated. And then we even essentially we go into the Port of Oberon, and out. Eastern Promises take you to sort of like into Bury St Edmunds and other locations there, Cambridge, where you might encounter the King's Men, Colchester and more, and even out to Dread Dunwich, real place, capital of England, Anglo-Saxon times, destroyed and submerged by coastal erosion, and the subject of a scenario for Call of Cthulhu. And then westward hose to Bristol and beyond, or I should say Bristol and beyond. And then northwards. So it's covering sort of like the whole of the country as well, the whole of England. In sort of like generally broader details, you know, looking at particular locations and more. And here we have literally the lay of the land, or the ley lines. There you go, pun. And it's discussion of different. It is followed by a discussion of sort of like of these different ley lines. And then we've got discussion of other places like Fairyland, the Astral Plane, Death, Ethers, and more. And outwards, and then solid biography, appendices covers and the London work and a massive ritual, and various other things, names for creatures of folklore. So yeah, this is a fascinating book, and I really look forward to digging into it. And we've got a chronological listing of other books, and then sort of like the detailed maps of those ley lines at the end. So really quite impressed. It's a lovely looking book. Going to be a fascinating take. A very different, very esoteric look upon the mythos and its influence upon London and Albion shores, and make for an interesting campaign. Anyway, so that is Fearful Symmetries, which brings William Blake and H.P. Lovecraft together like never before. Available for Trade Cthulhu from Pelgrime Press. Okay, well, I hope you have enjoyed this unboxing in the Nook. If you have, please do click on the like button down below. And if you've got any comments or feedback, I appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to yet more unboxings in the Nook, where you'll see me out here, sorry cat, with a box or a parcel, from which I will remove a book or game and talk about it to the best extent of my knowledge for roughly 10 minutes or so, all of course accompanied by, in this case, a cat who is not ours, and a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do hit that subscribe button. Thanks again for watching. I'll be back again soon with another unboxing in the Nook. Bye for now.